All right. I guess I can't really see how many people we have on here, but welcome to the cruise industry update with new technologies making cruising safe. I don't think it was ever not safe, but based on the latest development, I guess some people think so. My name is Anders Aasen. I'm the president of the Norwegian-American Chamber in Florida. So most of you know what we do anyway, but this is a great forum to promote your business, talk about or connect with other companies, mostly with Norwegian-American background. As a member, you get a lot of other benefits. Obviously we didn't have too many events the last few months because of the COVID-19, but we were scheduled to have our sea trade event back in April. That had to be cancelled, unfortunately. But we're looking forward to next event at some point when when the time allows. So this is a nice picture of me. I'm Anders. I've been working for Royal Caribbean for about 28 years or so. And we also have with us Timo from ABB. We have Jan from DNVGL. And then we have Myra that volunteered to actually be our moderator. She's based in Houston. So you want to take over from here, Myra?
Perfect. Thank you, Anders. Hopefully folks can hear me and see me all right at this point. It seems we've got quite a few on the line today, so that's very good. I think this topic is one of much interest, both COVID and the impacts to the cruise industry as of late. So it's good to see that we've got quite the interest in this session today, and I'm looking forward to a very interesting dialogue with the panelists we have here today. So thank you to the NACC for inviting me to take part. To kick it off, I think it's appropriate to sort of take a moment and discuss amongst the group, being three representatives from different segments of the industry, what the challenges or the biggest challenges have been due to the COVID pandemic as of late. Anders, I think maybe you've got your mic unmuted right now, so we can start with you if you'd like.
Yeah, obviously the fact that you're not allowed to sail or being told you're not allowed to sail, that's one of the challenges, because guess what? That means you don't get any money coming in. So that's kind of a little bit of an issue. I think initially when this started to happen, we kind of realized that if we don't do anything ourselves, we will be shut down anyway. So we took the initiative to actually stop the ships from sailing. We started to send everybody home, from passengers to crew. And since the crew part has been a challenge after, so and if you look at what has been my biggest challenge is to actually get the crew safely home, not because we don't want to send them home. We're doing everything we can to get them home, but the actual countries where you're from do not allow you to come back. So we have certain countries still actually close to crew members. So that, which is a little bit heartbreaking for people that has been on board for 10, 12, and maybe more than 12 months. It's not our fault that they are still on board, but the actual local regulations stopping them.
Do you have an estimate, just out of curiosity, an estimate of how many personnel are in this situation of a bit of limbo, not able to get home?
We have still today we have about 25,000 people on board from crew members. Our normal fleet is about 75,000, so we have sent the rest home. But still, we have out of those 25,000, these are actually people that there is some of them that has to be on board because they operate the ship. We have the nautical crew, the technical crew. So it's not. I think we're still waiting for about 10,000 more people to be sent home. Okay. And now we have, instead of, because they are not accepted many times on commercial flights, so we have to charter planes from certain countries, or we take a ship to their country. We sent recently 3 ships to India, for example, with crew members sailing all the way from either from here or from Europe. That's an expensive way to be sent home.
Yeah, so the human element poses, which is not shocking, I suppose, but the human element poses some significant challenges to the operations. And as you mentioned, the operations are limited due to COVID-19 altogether.
Right.
Jan, I think you're next here on my screen. Why don't we go to you from DNVGL's standpoint? What's been, from your view, the biggest challenge?
Well, DNVGL is we're a global company. We are a risk management and quality assurance company, and of course we have a large number of employees. We are in 100+ countries, and 12,000 employees, of which about 4,300 is working in maritime, working with surveying ships. And of course it has been a challenge for us to ensure that our employees are safe and healthy, and we have had very, very few of our employees that have caught COVID-19. Out of the 1,000 employees we have in China, where the outbreak started, none of them got sick, but we have had a few in Europe, and I think 2 cases in the Norwegian-Americans. So the biggest challenge for us has been to be able to also travel and to operate, because what we do is as a classification society is that we certify the ships, and we certify a large number of ships. We have 11,300 ships that we issue the certificates, enable them to trade on. And if we don't have access to the ships, if we're not able to get to them, their certificates expire, they don't meet the obligations, then goods stop moving. And this is a problem. So of course we have to do our part to ensure that things move around. We don't, a container ship can have all different types of things inside, including personal protective equipment, including toilet rolls. That has been an issue, toilet paper in stores. So it's important that the trade is moving. And so for us, the biggest challenge really has been to ensure that our customers have been able to operate, that they're able to do that, and that our personnel have stayed healthy. And of course, when we get into the cruise side, I mean, cruise is a smaller segment, but is a very important segment, and we will get into some of the details of what we are doing, trying to ensure that they can start up safely as well. I'll give the word to Timo.
And Timo, make sure you're unmuted. There we go.
Yeah, thank you, Jan. ABB, being a global company, really big in the manufacturing and supply side in this case for the cruise industry. We have a lot of legs, a lot of industries that we cover. So in the global level, it doesn't mean that bad situation. And also these different stages globally, that starting from China, then Europe, then US, that has helped to the manufacturing side of the business. But then when we look more the marine business and especially cruise, as that's the topic now today, of course there we have got a lot of troubles on the business side. If there's no vessel sailing, there's not much work for the suppliers either. And then on the marine side, we have also more industries than cruise. There's also oil and gas, there's ports, there's merchant. So those other areas, they have a little bit helped, but there has been hit overall in the marine industry, and of course that has affected on our business side. And then a little bit repeating what Anders was saying, that we had also concerns with our people, especially on the beginning, that we got people away from the jobs and how they can safely travel home from doing the jobs. And we had a couple of urgent jobs ongoing on the very beginning, and there was a little bit of trouble to get people home. And now when we continue the situation, the big problem is to get people traveling. I think that's now the biggest to get the business up, that how we get people traveling to the ships, since it's a global business and not much happening in the US. So a lot of vessels are in Europe, in Asia, and we should get people there. Even if you have the local service network, but still there is cases that we need to have certain specialties, certain competence that need to be transferred.
Understandable. I failed to mention in my eagerness to kick this off that we also, with having nearly 100 folks on the line, there is a Q&A function within Zoom. So if you have a burning question that you'd like to submit for our panelists to look at here today, please feel free throughout the session to drop them there. I do have a host of questions, and I'm aware that we've got only 49 minutes left in our session today. So we will do our best to address what we can. But if you do have a question you'd like to submit, please feel free to send that through, and we will try and get to them if we have the time to be able to do so. Switching gears a little bit then, I know sort of the companies that we've got represented here on our panel today are at the forefront of their industries. So I know that certain advances in terms of technology, business processes were already underway prior to the pandemic. Are there any secondary methods that with the pandemic coming into full effect have become sort of the primary go-tos in terms of business continuity or the ability to maintain business continuity? Jan, I don't know if we want to start with you here this time on that.
Sure. DNVGL, we have since 2016, 2015, we started with what we call remote surveys, meaning that we use technologies to access the ship, and we can transfer video images from the vessel, and we use that as part of the survey process. And before COVID-19 hit, we passed 18,000 remote surveys. Today we do about on a daily basis about 300 remote surveys. And that has now become more and more popular. We're also doing remote audits, which is interviews and talking to the people on board, ensuring and seeing how the quality management system or safety management system is implemented, and ensuring compliance that way. When it comes to cruise vessels, we typically would, in the past, that was a survey done on board, sailing with the ship, watching the ship in operation. Today, the ships are laying still, and we are, of course, doing our part to ensure that the ships are ready to get back into service. And through that, we are doing some parts of that those surveys remote, and we're doing some with port surveys with the minimum footprint on board in lieu of the voyage surveys we have done in the past. I think that is, in short, the survey approach. And of course, we are now doing extensive risk assessments before we go on board. We ensure that our surveyors are working in team A and team B, so that we have a split, meaning that if someone do get any symptoms, we take them out of commission immediately and put them in quarantine, and we're still able to operate with the team B as such. And of course, we have also implemented a number of different ways when it comes to, you know, avoid contaminating if our people or the vessel that we are visiting. So traveling in separate cars, having meetings in open air, minimum interaction on board, personal protective equipment. There's a lot of safeguards in place to ensure that we can deliver what we need to do, so that the ships are ready to operate as soon as the cruise lines kick off again. Thank you.
Very good. Timo, I see that you're unmuted, so let's turn it to you. Has there been anything from ABB's side that has been leaned on heavily during this period?
Yeah, again, I can repeat Jan what he was saying about the remote inspections. We have also implemented the remote factory acceptance tests in some projects. So that gives a possibility to go through the equipment that we have manufactured and have a video discussions or a live view from execution of the tests. And then, of course, on the sites we have similar procedures to keep our people safe once they get on board and work in the groups.
Okay, very good. And Anders, from the operators side, what might there be there?
No, I think obviously the importance of getting remote surveys done is critical to us to continue operating, right? Because even now, if you don't have guests on board, the ships needs to be certified and continue to be able to carry guests and crew. So I think that has been the biggest thing for us, having all the help from the different vendors, and it's been amazing to see different companies stepping up to the plate, and instead of saying no, we cannot do this, there's been reduced fees, there's been all kinds of help from other vendors. So everybody's kind of, we are all in this together. And I know especially the cruise industry is one of the ones that's among the hardest hit. I'm not saying the worst, but at least one of the worst. Like you have airlines in the airline industries as well. So it's a lot of other in the same boat.
Has it been, of course, has it been something significant for Royal to adapt to primarily having surveys, suppliers do work remotely? I mean, does this cause, is there additional efforts involved from your cruise side or from the operations standpoint, office based? I mean, has there been an increase in effort on your end because of this, or have you seen any change there?
I think personally, I've never worked so much in my life. You know, I think people should think that now you're not sailing with guests, so now you must have an easy life. It's been completely the opposite. So that's, I think that's the same for everybody on here as well. I think we all work a lot more, and you sit in the same stupid chair all day long. So it's kind of, we have some other consequences of that.
Yeah, I can see all of us smiling and nodding our heads, so we can certainly relate to you with that comment. All right, very good. I did just, sorry, go ahead.
One more comment is that obviously when we get some people for inspections on board, sometimes we actually do get people on board. We have the pilot coming on board, for example, and there is a lot of procedures to follow with PPE and things like that. So that has been a challenge as well.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Switching gears a little bit, because I know probably of the nearly 100 people here on the call, everyone would like to know when cruising is going to kick off again, when the due date is for vessels to be back in operations and to be ideally fully occupied. But of course, we know that government regulations and authorizations are not what is solely dependent for cruising to get back into service. So with that being said, when do you foresee that sort of consumer confidence will be at a standpoint for cruising to return to a new normal?
I think at least the no sail order that was pushed down on us in the end is saying now August 1st. But then that coming back after that is going to be very limited capacity, right? So we have a few ships starting up with very short cruises. It's not going to be like a 2-week cruise around the world. So it's kind of a very limited offering, but at least we get back out there. So it might be some short 3-4 day cruises with maybe one port. I think that's the way to go. And we're also looking at hopefully doing something in Europe even before then. But that's is kind of based on the local regulations. So US has been a little bit difficult. Europe seems to be opening up a little bit before. And even China is starting to open up. So we have a lot of discussions going on the actual when that is going to happen. But I would say maybe with 25% capacity or something like that. So it won't be too exciting in the beginning, but at least we get back into what we like to do.
Right, of course. And I know for sure there will be a host of new measures put in place. I've heard just myself from the standpoint of manufacturers, there's a host of new safety measures, new equipment, various new technologies that are being looked at for application in the aim to make cruising safer and give folks the confidence of enhanced safety on board. I know you probably can't commit to saying we're going this direction or that direction, but can you speak on behalf of what is being evaluated or what is potentially out there in the market? I think this is probably something that all three of our panelists could address, but Anders, do you want to say any that Royal is sort of eyeing as far as the return to service?
I won't say exactly what we're doing, but we have a lot of same with all the other cruise lines as well. We're all working together under CLIA to kind of make sure that we have this kind of the same measures put in place. So it's anything from just procedures when you board, when you get from car to bar kind of thing, to what you have to do in order to get on board, taking temperatures and kind of the same thing we do now in a normal life, but it's being very systematic with the records of your temperature taken several times a day and things like that. And there is also testing and all that. I think I have some slides here. Maybe we could put that up to Maybe Christina could put that up. And while I can't see it now, but
I can also try to share my screen. Bear with me just a minute.
but it's always good for example, to do with air filtration. It can be UV and things like that. There's a lot of things out there that, there you go.
Okay, excellent.
There's
This is the right slide, yes?
That's the right slide.
Okay.
So there's, for example, the screening, that's important. While you're on board, making sure that if you feel any symptoms, of course, you have to make sure people are notified. And we also went through the consumers. We went out there and we got some comparisons to other industries. If you go to the next slide, you can show that. We compared ourselves to like hotels and other where there's a lot of people. So we went to go to the next one. Here you can kind of compare to what some of the other suspects are doing. In the airline industry, we have hotels, resorts. So we're making sure that everything is covered before you actually go back on board.
So these are measures that are already in place. Is that right, Anders?
Well, we're not sailing with guests yet, but they will be in place when we get back to sailing.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, good to see a green across the board here. Jan, from class perspective, what does class have to offer when it comes to this?
Well, the DNVGL is as a class society, we are also operating in other areas than maritime, and one of our areas is business assurance, which has a division called DNVGL Healthcare, and we have since 2008, DNVGL Healthcare has been certifying hospitals in the United States. So we certify and accredit about 630 hospitals on behalf of Medicare and Medicaid as one of 4 organizations in the US that does that. And we are also, in that setting, we are offering a program for infection prevention and control, which we have now adjusted and adapted over to work in a cruise ship environment. And if you can imagine, a hospital has a lot of the same production or the same flows as a cruise ship. You have food production, you have public areas, you have administration, you have sanitation, you have laundry services, and so forth. So we have taken that existing program that is developed over many years and is part of the package of certifications we deliver to the medical industry or hospital industry globally, actually. We have taken this now and transferred over to a cruise ship environment where we have a kind of a curb to curb approach, where we certify the ship and it is from the moment that the guest arrives and step out of the taxi and drop off the luggage until they leave the vessel again. And we're looking at all the processes that is touching the ship. We are driving it as a continuous improvement program, and it is goal-based, not prescriptive. So what you see here is prescriptive, and this is more looking at how the management system for the cruise line and for the ship should meet all the different applicable requirements that the ship will face depending on where in the world that they're trading. And since our healthcare personnel, we have they are also global. We have people both in North America, South America, Europe, and Asia. Actually, interestingly enough, we are the only accreditation body in China besides the Chinese government for hospitals. So we collect information and we gather the expectations and we certify the vessels that they are meeting the itinerary requirements that they have. So depending on where in the world you are, there are going to be different expectations. I think that's, I give it over to Timu.
Yeah, Timu, from your side, from ABB's angle, where does ABB contribute to this picture? I think you might be muted. Timu, are you muted on? There we go.
Okay, no.
Perfect.
Okay, so ABB being more like an equipment supplier, and then our part is more the machinery side. So there's not so much we can do or contribute on this passenger side. But maybe we could look the other slides and
Sure.
go through the things that we have been developing for the situation. And yeah, our focus has been more on those vessels that cannot operate. How to preserve the vessels so that once the operation is back, they are still in good condition and safe to start the operation. This is the presentation of ABB in general. I think we can go to the next slide.
Okay.
So here is the first thing what we did, like first action when the situation started. We made a service bulletins what we shared with all the vessel owners and gave the instructions that how to preserve the equipment on board, so that depending if it's a short-term or long-term breaks into operation, how to make sure that everything works also after the vessel start the operation again. And so we have made the instructions for the stacking period, and then we have another instructions for taking the vessel back to operation, what kind of actions are critical there. From technical point of view, the most important things are temperature and humidity. Since we are talking about electrical equipment, and there's too high temperatures, so there's too much humidity, then electrical components are going to fail at some point. And then if you go to the next slide, there is another thing that we not really invented right now for this situation. This is the same concept what was used when the oil and gas side went the downturn in 2015 or somewhere there. So then there came requests from the operators that how they can be still energy efficient if the vessels are laying in the port and they need to have the auxiliary power available in the vessel. So we have made connections between vessels to connect the power plants together, so that in one vessel is one, or depending of course power demand, but typically only one vessel, one engine running, and that engine is supplying power to the other vessels. And then of course always depends on the vessels and how much power is needed, how many vessels can be connected, but like 2 or 3 vessels, they can be connected together on the electrical side, and then only one engine is running on at the highest efficiency power, and in that way it's there's no need to have engines running in all the vessels with really low power.
So this approach is being used currently within the cruise space?
Not yet on the cruise, but in the oil and gas side it was already used, and now we have discussions with a couple of owners to make these kind of connections. So we got
Anders, did you want to comment?
I have to correct you because we are already doing this, but thank you.
Yeah, do you want to comment? And actually it's probably an appropriate time to turn to you anyway when it comes to layup, because this is totally new territory for, correct me if I'm wrong, the cruise industry when it comes to laying up vessels in modern day, I suppose.
Absolutely. I have never laid up a ship in my life, so I'm learning a lot, and that's where we actually went back to the NVGL and got some input from them, since they have some experience from other shipping types. So we have the principle that Tim will explain here is what we're currently doing now in Glasgow for some of our ships that's going to be laid up there for a short time, hopefully. But at least it saves energy, and it makes sure that all the ships are continuing to be live. So that's a good way to do it.
Sure. Jan, do you want to comment on that? I can see you nodding there in the background.
Sure. I mean, from a class point of view, the vessel is either in operation or in layup. However, there are different types of layups, and you can have a hot layup, like the vessels are ready to go on very short notice. You have warm layup that is shown here. You can also have what is called cool, and then also cold. Cold layup typically is applicable for if a vessel is going to be out of operation for 12 months or more. But there are different cost aspects with that. It is something that we have issued some guidance on, and we have also been running webinars in the NVGL on how to lay up the vessels and all the different considerations that needs to be taken to ensure that the ship is secure and also is meeting the obligations of insurance of the port states, that the mooring assessment is okay, and that typically ISBS is managed on a cruise vessel. That is really the bigger topics, I think, for a layup. Yeah, as a comment there. Thank you.
Stop sharing my screen because I have limited view on what's going on here, and I'm aware that we've got a few questions that have come in. So maybe we switch gears and see what we've got from our audience. Question being, what do the panelists think of the ITF's recent statement that seafarers who have been held on board to work past their contract length and sometimes for even more than 12 months should put down their tools and stop working, basically go on strike? Does anyone want to comment on that?
I can comment on that. I don't think that's going to help. Not going to help anybody. So that's the only. For some of you that watches the news, I think we saw we had some people that went on hunger strike in order to get off the ship. So in one way, yeah, maybe you're going to get some attention if you do this, but I don't think it's going to help. We are doing the utmost to get people home anyway. So it's not like we're sitting back and waiting to go on strike. It's basically the countries that is holding us back, as I mentioned before.
Right.
So I would hope this doesn't happen.
Can agree with you there on that. I don't think. I mean, we're living history right now, I guess you could say, is one way of looking at it. There's a lot of elements that we can't control. The COVID pandemic and the outbreak is one of them, and certainly with information or misinformation, countries are taking the standpoints that they are to try and protect as best as possible. So we're all sort of subject to what is sort of coming down the pipeline with that. With that being said, or with that in mind, we know that there are certain measures, washing of hands, wearing of masks, distancing 6 feet at minimum. What other measures are being looked at when it comes to the cruise industry returning to operations? Do you foresee sort of a certain tier or phase of approach when it comes to aspects that will be in place, when the orders are lifted and vessels can begin operating? Of course, it won't be just like it was. What will the picture look like?
I think we're going to look at a new normal, because it's not going to be the same as it was before. That's clear. I think it's obviously when we start, we're going to have we're not going to sail with full ships. So like I mentioned before, maybe you start with 25%, then you go maybe up to 50 after a while when things goes well, and then hopefully at some point in the future we will get back to full ships. We have a lot of bookings. People really want to go cruising, so it's not for the lack of guests; it's for the lack of permission to actually put them on board.
That's positive to hear. Positive to hear. There is a question here in the queue. And just seeing that the news, there may be threat of a second shutdown in South Florida and potentially other parts of the U.S. with the increase in cases developing currently. How is the industry going to adapt to this? I don't know if maybe we could go through all three. I think we need a crystal ball maybe to answer this question. And of course, we can take the learnings from the past few months, the situation that we've been in. But if there is indeed a second shutdown, how does that change the picture?
I think this might, if you look at the no sale order that was issued at least 2 or 3 times, right? It was the date was changed.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have a like an increase of cases all over the US, for example, I'm sure CDC will tell us that, by the way, we are not ready for you to go back yet. I would imagine that would be a consequence. I hope that doesn't happen. But we actually started going back with 25 capacity to the office 10 days ago now. Mm. I think many businesses are still on the fence to see when they're going to allow their people to go back. But if you're out and about, you go to these restaurants open, things are slowly getting back to normal. And at one point, I think we should stop being hostage of this thing. So we need to kind of just behave a little bit different and not necessarily go and kiss everybody on the cheek every time you say hello. So it's okay to do that too.
Okay. Teemu, from ABB's side, what does potentially sort of a second shutdown or a change mean for your organization?
Yeah, we follow what's happening on the cruise companies and hope that they get back to the operation as soon as possible. Of course, if this is going to take a long time, then there is an effect in our ability to give the support locally as well. You know, it's hard to keep on the business if there's no work for everybody.
That's true.
But at the moment, it looks that you know, let's hope for the best that things start to recover soon and we all get back to the real work.
And Jan, from your end?
Yeah, I second what the other two have said. I think another shutdown is going to be very, very challenging for the cruise companies, especially those that are operating out of the US primarily, because of course, they are under significant pressure financially now to get back into operation and to have a positive cash flow. And now it's negative, and they're spending a huge amount of money every month. And of course, DNVGL as an organization, we are trying to do what we can to help on that, and that's why I mentioned earlier the certification program that we hope can also create some restore some faith also in and trust that, you know, when you have the same independent third party that certify your neighborhood hospital also certify a cruise ship for the same infection prevention and control, that it can help also relax some of the authorities and some of the different stakeholders that everything possible is done to ensure a healthy and safe operation. We do see that different parts of the world have different approaches. We see that different ports have very different also guidance. You mentioned earlier the social distancing, that is not the same everywhere. The quarantine time is not the same everywhere. Some places it is 14 days like it is in the US, and as you said, 2 meters or 6 feet social distancing here, while for instance, to compare to Norway, it is 1 meter and it is 10 days quarantine. So different authorities have different interpretations, and we learn the whole time because this is an evolving situation. But I think we are going to see some global regulation coming eventually, and I think this is a much larger event than 9/11 was, and after 9/11 we saw quite a lot of security regulation come into place. I think we will see the same on the health side. We will see new health regulation coming in, and that's good. Also manageable. So it is a matter of adapting, and I think the cruise industry are very good at adapting. I think they will do so and will rebound. Of course, the cruise industry is a fairly small industry, 420 ships globally, roughly, with another 120 something new buildings on order. Maybe not all of them will come now with this crisis, but it was a industry that was booming prior to COVID-19, and of course we hope they will get back into the same track, because cruising is a fantastic experience for those that have been on a cruise vessel and experience that. Is a very, very difficult to compete with that type of vacation, no matter where you go. So we hope it will rebound, and we hope that the cruise lines will be able to find solutions that are workable. We know some of them have private islands that I'm sure will be main destinations. There will be different solutions. There are a lot of very bright people looking at this and trying to get the cruise industry back into operation again.
Okay, very good. Are there already discussions that that you know of regarding new regulations, or is this still sort of we're trying to get a handle on where we are now and we'll worry about that when we've got our feet under us?
Well, yesterday I talked to EMSA, which is the European safety or maritime safety agency. They are working on regulations and which will probably come looking at cruise vessels for Europe. You can expect that some flag administrations are likely going to have some guidance as well. And of course, we see that different ports have quite strong expectations. And if you don't meet their expectations, you may not be able to come in. So there will be a lot of regulation that needs to be met, or expectations that have to be met, and this is of course a big challenge for the cruise industry.
Definitely. Anders, perhaps CLIA is having some similar discussions. Is there anything that you can comment there on that from the cruise ship collective?
No, there is my dear boss actually. He sits with talking to the CLIA with the other cruise lines. Making sure that everybody's kind of going in the same direction. So that's why we are all on the same track, getting back to normal. So that's why it doesn't benefit anybody that one does this and another one does something else. That's why we are in this together, and we're trying to get out of it together as well.
Very good. Very good. Let me see here. In terms of sort of the return to normal, and we know that the word is that more than likely this particular outbreak of COVID-19 is to be with us at least until next year. You know, there's no cure in place, there's no vaccine. In terms of sort of incidents in the future, is there expectation for reporting of this? I mean, we know, of course, there were incidents at the beginning of the year here within the US on cruise ships specifically, which caught, you know, media attention probably first within the United States as far as the global COVID news is concerned. But in terms of reporting, are there new tools under development or new tools being looked at to manage and support sort of the control of this going forward?
Well, I can comment on that. I mean, there is for the US, you have requirements to notify to CDC if you have people on board that have illness and symptoms, and of course, you have to notify to US Coast Guard upon arrival US port. I think we're going to see similar reporting requirements around the world, and there are of course likely also going to be in the future, I would say probably an expansion of the ISM code when it comes to reporting of incidents, where today, yes, maritime incidents, but this is such a big event that it will affect future legislation and regulation as well. And it is quite likely that there could be expansion either of the Maritime Labour Convention or of the ISM code itself, or maybe a separate set of regulation. We will see what comes from the regulatory bodies, but this is definitely high on everybody's agenda, and I think we will see more on this as well. And I think you know, we have seen the reactions like in Australia and other places where ships have come in, and if you're not notifying in advance and not dealing with it properly, there can be quite strong reactions from the local port authorities and the local authorities on how that is handled. So yes, I would say there's going to be some requirements for reporting. Absolutely.
Anders, is there has it been thought sort of how to manage this? Has there been a task force within the organization looking at how to address this, or is this still on sort of the planning for the future? if and when it happens, of course.
Like there has been a huge task force. I think that has been the main focus on every department, basically, to see how can we get back to sailing with in the safest way possible. And that was also, some of you have seen that from, it even came down from the White House, I guess, to say that, you know, you need to show us your plan, and within the next 48 hours. And so it has been a few busy days. And there is a huge plan on all the, you will eventually see that when it will be published. I don't know exactly the date of that, but it's a huge task list for what the passengers has to do before they actually even get to the pier, how you board, how you behave on board, what is the daily routine with cleaning and all of these things, and what you do when you go off to the island or to on an excursion and all of those things. So everything has to kind of change compared to what it was before. It's not going to be that you get off in the port and you jump on a bus and you go with 30 people somewhere. So all of those things has taken a tremendous amount of time and effort and money and whatever to kind of get to a new normal. So when this is published, you will see a huge change. Hopefully we can continue making cruising fun. So that's also part of the whole deal here.
Of course, but it's got to be a balance. So
yeah,
understandable.
Absolutely. Right.
I know with the comment about being busy, I think collectively we could all agree we feel busier now than we have been in the past. But I think it's interesting because COVID-19 has put, it seems in a sense at least, it's a pause button on the world. You know, the world hasn't stopped spinning, but it's felt a bit like it's stopped spinning, and thought that this is a period which will trigger innovation in terms of new technologies, new ways of working, and perhaps an assessment of what has been and the status quo. Within your organizations, and I'm aware that we've only got about 10 minutes left, within your organizations during this period, what have you done in terms of reflection on the way of working in the past, in looking at how to perhaps improve for the future, reassess what is most valuable, or adjust for the new reality? Timo, do you want to start from ABB?
Yes, I can take. Yeah, we have also those task force, and we have followed the situation globally, and of course inside the company need to report the actions and consequences and all that. Like I guess all the companies, and at the same time when there's been more time for different type of works instead of doing the regular work that we used to do. We have spent time in developing the new things, thinking what can we sell in the future when this thing is over. Like this shared power plant was one of those, and we have been putting a lot of effort in that kind of work that try to advance the things that earlier we didn't have time to do. And I have to say that at least I'm equally busy now like I was before. Work is just different now. That's mainly the difference for the old.
Okay, yeah, I think there's the collective nod from the group where we're doing a bit of the same. It's just from perhaps a different location as opposed to your office. It's from your home office. Jan, perhaps from the class standpoint, I know remote surveys obviously are being heavily utilized right now across all class societies, DMVGL certainly. What assessments have been done to evaluate changes in terms of the way we've done work?
Well, the NVGL is, we actually take 5% of our global revenue and put it into research and innovation. And we had already done a lot of research and innovation into digitalization. So when COVID-19 hit, we already have electronic certificates. We have remote survey tools. We have what we call DATE, direct access to technical experts, where we use machine learning to route questions to the right experts within our organization. And there we had passed 500,000 questions already. So for us, it was, yes, well, the office is closed, but people can work from from home. Our platform is already digital. Everything we do is digital. So for us, it was not a huge shift. I think we are now starting to look at reopening the offices. We're going to take it in stages, but we're going to take it slowly. But we also have to recognize that sitting at home, working from your home office is not necessarily ideal, and it's challenging for people. You get a little bit stir crazy sometimes. You have family members there. It is not your working environment that you are used to. So it's a different way of working. Very, very active use of tools like Teams or Skype, or in this case Zoom that we are on now, and I think those have come to stay. I think there may be, in our case, we're looking at people can voluntarily come back to the office and work out of the office, likely from up to October, November. So we will stay away, and we do that out of abundance of caution and to ensure that people are safe. I think there are. I mean, we already have started looking at efficiency programs and how can we learn from this and what can be pull of good lessons learned. And we see that there are certain things we can do remotely and there are certain things we cannot do remotely. But that we will work differently when this crisis is over. That's for sure. We will work a little bit differently. I don't think it's going to be a massive change because we were already way on the path already, which made the switch quite easy for us. But I think we will continue on that path and work with the tools we have and further develop them even more. So yes, I think that's the path we are on. Thank you.
Okay. And Anders, I know you've already mentioned here, passenger safety in the forefront. What else is has maybe been reassessed?
I think we kind of had a strong opinion about not working from home in the past. My team is a little bit different because they're kind of always on the road anyway, so we have somewhat allowed some of them to do that every now and then. And since we now have been working from home 7 days a week, basically, I think the people that really wanted to do that in the past, they have maybe changed opinions a little bit. Like, please let me work in the office. That's one way of doing it. But I think we have also seen that it does work to be at home. So it may be some mix there with a couple of days or 1 day a week or whatever it is, and allowing people to connect the way we do today. I think that's positive going forward. But I agree with Jan. I think the human interaction is important, and we need to make sure we see people. So that's hopefully we get back to that sooner than later.
Excellent. I've got a couple other questions that have just come through, and I'm aware we've got a few minutes left. I think this is directed to you, Jan. It was posted today that Viking Line has adopted DNVGL MyCare as infection risk management action. You've mentioned a certification program. Can you summarize the main difference and how this assists in increasing trust of stakeholders, mainly regulators and passengers?
Yes. MyCare is a maturity assessment, and you can say it is a stepping stone to reach the certification in infection prevention level. So it is a snapshot of where the organization is at the moment, and it provides a evaluation of where they are and what they need to do next. While the certification in infection prevention is a 3-year certification, which is a continuous improvement program, which is more like a journey. So where one is an assessment, the other one is a journey. That's the difference, I would say. Okay.
And another interesting one, which Anders, I think you could take, and Jan, maybe you can comment as well. Will ships have a sanitation certification issued by a class society before back in service, even if it is still not mandatory?
Well, to be honest, I thought it was mandatory, but see how much I know. We just did one now on one of the ships in Naples, so we have that was carried out today. So at least we have always been doing it. But I think going forward, I'm sure this will be part of the mandatory rules, and it should be done.
Okay,
Yeah.
Jan, do you want to comment?
I can second that. I think some of the voluntary work and the voluntary certifications that has been in the past most likely will become part of normal operation in the future.
The new normal.
The new normal.
I've got one perhaps, and I know we've got only a couple minutes left. There's one question in the queue, and then I've got an interesting one that hopefully you can distill one-word responses to. But the question in the queue, it's positive to see that share prices of all cruise owners are recovering a lot since the outbreak and the bottom line was hit. Did Royal react better than the other cruise liners in terms of diluting existing shareholders? How could Royal plan this different from others like Carnival and NCL? Anders, can you respond to that?
Since I'm the technical guy, I should say no, I guess. But, luckily, I'm not too much involved in that side. But I think we did. Obviously, we had to go out like everybody else. We were very quick to go out and get secure funding. So I think that was one of the reasons that we showed the world that we can still continue to operate, and we did a very good jobs, kind of taking our expenses down. So okay. I think that was one of the initial things that made a difference. And keep in mind that our share price was also higher than all the other ones for those.
That certainly helps. Certainly helps. Well, one last question I think from my side, and it's a one-word response. One word to describe the 2020 year. Anders, do you have one?
Did 2020 happen? I don't know. I think this was the year from hell for me, at least. So.
It was more than one word, but okay. Timu, what do you have?
Yeah, difficult to say in one word, but a lot of new things learned. Could never imagine something like this would happen.
Well, I think I would say global transformation. It's two words, but I think that's really what's happening, and it's global.
Well, I think it's all valid, certainly. All valid, certainly. Well, I think that brings us to just about the end of the hour. I know we do have a hard stop today, and I think for those on the East Coast, which all three of you are, it is the end of your day. I've still got an hour left officially in my workday. But thank you to the NACC for putting this webinar together. Thank you to all of the panelists, Timu, Jan, Anders, for taking part in this very interesting discussion. And thank you for inviting me to take part. This was a pleasure on my side to facilitate and moderate this session. I know that this webinar is or has been recorded. You may have noticed that from the Zoom platform here today. And it will be available to those who have attended, and I believe also those who have registered. If you want more information about the NACC and all that it does to support sort of the cruise industry in with the Florida chapter specifically, but the organization as a whole, you can see on the slide here the sites which you may visit and contact details for the representatives from NACC. Thank you again to all for participation, and those of you on the line for joining us today. I wish you a fabulous Wednesday, I think it is. I don't know, the days have all blended together. I think it's Wednesday. So a fabulous Wednesday evening, and stay safe and healthy. Until next time.
Thank you.